Hello, everyone, and welcome to the House Sable Pub. Today, we're going to be doing something a little different than usual, and this may actually become a standalone or a standing series within the pub. But welcome to Pub Talk, a series where I sit down with really cool content creators and give them a bit of a spotlight while helping you to get to know them better as well. Today, our guest is a really good friend and really adorable woman. Her name is Grizz. Hey, Grizz, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for everyone a little bit?
Hello, everyone. I'm GrizzVT. I stream on Twitch. I do a variety of different games and streams. I like doing the long play. I like action games. I like blathering for long periods of time about nothing in particular at all.
So you'll
It's a
do
pleasure
great
to
in
meet you.
this. ah, but
I
yes,
hope so.
I am sure you will do wonderfully. So we're gonna start off. These questions they kind of range from basic to fairly specific, and I'm doing this is my first time interviewing, so I'm gonna try and make sure that they're as personal as I can get without crossing lines. If there's ever a question I ask that you are uncomfortable answering, feel free to say, hey, I don't really want to talk about that. Worst case, we'll
Absolutely.
worst case we'll cut it. Make everyone question what was cut. Anyway, so
Well, my sizes are.
yeah, I'm gonna need your what is it, BWH?
Weirdly enough, they're all sizes of tens. Base 10.
Are you saying like they're specifically divisible by 10, or are you saying like they're in scientific notation?
Oh, I like both of those, so yes.
All right. Well, I guess that is the new first question. Um, uh, but let's let's get into some actual questions about you, and let's start with the genuine beginning. So I was looking some stuff up, and I noticed that you started streaming at least on Grizz_VT, although had a different name at the time. Roughly around, I want to say it was like late March, early April of 2021. When you were
A
going into,
far off year.
yeah, right, 4 years ago, almost five. But when you were getting into it, did you have a style of content in mind that you were aiming for, or did you just, I'm gonna sit down at the computer, I'm gonna hit start stream, and whatever happens, happens?
Well, I think an important part of bearing in mind what my early streaming days were like was that I hadn't quite realized that I was a girl yet at the time.
Mhm.
And going into streaming, a large part of me even beginning to dive into it was watching other VTubers, just as it was sort of starting to pop off over here in America. And I just bit by bit, I was like, well, I want to do some streaming. I got myself just a Fugi of a kitty cat, and I was just trying to see if I could even enjoy doing like streaming, if I could actually talk for a few hours at a time. And then it streaming became less of a thing that I was focused on a particular type of content into more of a way to help organize myself and my thoughts. So it wasn't necessarily that I wanted to play long form games, but it was more that I wanted to have a consistent schedule for myself, and long form games very much helped put a frame for myself for that. I always knew that if I wanted to say finish this particular game of Outer Worlds and do it on stream, I'd need to be doing it for a couple hours like at least 3 times a week. And that's just sort of how it boiled down into it for me. That my type of content formed like got built around my ability to talk on it, I guess.
No, that makes perfect sense because you don't want to be sitting there playing a game but have nothing to say about it, because the entire point of streaming is being able to communicate with whoever pops in to say hi in chat, and whatever they have weird questions for. I know we've gotten the most important questions over on my channel.
Exactly. And an important thing, and if anybody's ever thinking about getting into streaming, like the first year and a half of my streaming was just being able to blather to like 0 people in stream, just being able to chatter about whatever's going on, with the idea being that A, if somebody does come in, they'll see it's not just silent, and B, maybe still getting to be able to make some good clips or video content out of it if you like.
Yeah. Ironically, that was actually going to be a question I was going to ask. Was like, what kind of advice would you give someone who's looking to get into not even just VTubing, but like just streaming in general? And your ideas.
I could speak more on that as well if you'd like.
Oh, I would honestly, I love hearing people's opinions on this because, like, my big thing is I always tell people don't spend thousands of dollars on, the visuals and the overlays. Make sure you like what you're doing before you invest, 4 or 5 figures into it, even 3 figures. Like, wait and
And if
make
you're
sure it's what
going
you
to,
want.
invest them in us. Send them to Alyss and Grizz.
uh, yes. Send us support. There are many ways to support even other streamers, your favorite streamers. There's so many ways to support them. But no, again, what if not talking, or if not just the talking aspect, what is the advice you would impress upon someone who wants to start streaming tomorrow?
If you wanted to, there we go. Sorry. If you had wanted to start streaming, say tomorrow, you want to make sure that it's something you want to be able to be mentally present for what you're doing and for anybody you might be talking to. So y try not to like, you may have a favorite game, but if it's your favorite game because you love to sit there and focus on it and really, like, just da 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 da, y that will attract a particular type of audience, but it's not good for, like, an immediate growth. It's not it's just it's the difference between, like, watching a football game and watching a football game with good commentary. It can be a world of difference.
I could definitely get behind that too, because like there are definitely games I can't play on stream because they are games like if I am sitting down, I the one is escaping me right now. It's a spaceship. It's basically like a space trucking sim. Um, but like if I sit down and play that, I have to be very conscious to make sure that I do not accidentally go a day without food, drink, getting up, stretching my legs. I will literally lose myself in this game. I think that's honestly really good advice to give people.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
think so too.
But speaking about stuff like that, obviously you're someone who you make a lot of long plays and let's play style content where you sit there, you play your game, and you know, do you have anyone in mind who you would say is like you saw them doing it and went, I kind of want to do that? I think that would be a lot of fun to sit down and do. I know you have some channels you watch, but would you consider them inspirations?
It has to go back actually to the very first VTuber who I ever followed on Twitch. And this was after, like, I saw some clips of VTubers on YouTube. I think Gargura was beginning to make her big splashes. Pun intended. She's a shark VTuber, you see.
Well, she
And
was.
was a shark VTuber,
Okay,
of course.
I don't remember what she is now, but I'm pretty sure it is still Aqua related.
It is. It
That said,
is.
Garguru was
Right.
actually my first
But
VTuber I followed, but go ahead.
my very first VTuber, like, who I considered like one that I followed because they were a small one, was lady underscore underscore firefly. Now, unfortunately, if you were to search for her now, you probably wouldn't find her. I believe she may have actually closed the channel entirely, just because. And this is sort of a symptom of VTubing as a whole. Like, people just they move on. They'll stream for 1 or 2 years, and then either need to change their environment, change what they're doing, or change like who they're showing it to. And and yeah, they moved on to better pastures. But I'll never forget, like it was a welcoming community. It was entertaining, like to do, and it a large part of it comes down to when you watch some of those the content and you're like, I'm having a good time here. I wonder if I could do it better.
That is always the question of, can I do this just as good, if not better than them? So, we talked about the Let's Play. What about your Sunday morning coffee streams? I know how much you love doing those. You wake up for them fairly early every Sunday, and it's very rare you miss them. What made you start doing those?
I wanted a stream that I would be like it. Part of it was because I had wanted a stream that was outside of my typical time slot. When I first started up that stream, I was really trying to hammer in a schedule, and I still am trying, being the operative word there, but I wanted a stream that could reach out to like the parts of the Twitch that were up and about at in the early morning as opposed to the evening, on the East Coast anyway. This
Mm-hmm.
was back in East Coast Beast Coast days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But and it turned out to be a real, like, a lifeline, I think, because like it did bring in some new viewers, it's true, but more than anything it turned out just to be an excellent outlet for because a lot of people have things they want to talk about, a lot of things they want to show you during your actual streams, but it's like, well, listen, I'm not going to pause Cyberpunk to go watch this like video that y'all have recommended. So and I'm simply terrible at watching them and providing feedback off of stream. So I found having this sort of just an outlet for your community to provide recommendations, and then something, and then you to react live to those recommendations it's just been a great way to keep in connection with the community.
I like that. It's a great way of having like a community centered stream without having to, because it's one thing that a lot of people try and do, where they try and get community games with like Minecraft or GTA and stuff, and unfortunately it doesn't always work out. There always winds up being this one person who hops in and just tries to cause trouble, saying things they aren't supposed to and such. But
Yep.
with
Even
your
then,
content
it's a
idea,
matter of barrier to entry. Just because, like, even for something as simple as like, hey, everybody, let's play Minecraft. That still needs everybody to own Minecraft. It needs everybody to be willing to have it open as well as your stream, or to be in the Discord and to be in a chat. But with videos, it's just simple. It's like, hey, somebody wants you to see this thing, toss it in the Discord. And I might pull it up during the streaming and present, like, you talk with them. It's just it's a good time that, and like that, like you say, is relatively safe against say negative impact, I guess would be a good way to phrase that.
yeah, I think negative impact's a good phrase for that kind of thing.
Bigots.
Well,
Misa-
bigots is kind of a big problem with that. I remember I was in a friend's Minecraft stream, and they were like, the voice chat's open, the Minecraft server's open, and like they had gotten up to go use the bathroom or something. And the moment they walked away, we had two separate people jump in, blasting these blaring, like, hateful audios and videos, and thankfully only the audio was coming through, and thankfully we had a mod in the VC to immediately boot and ban those people. But it was one of those, like, this
Yeah,
is the kind of challenge you pose.
yeah, hosting anything that's like truly open community, very challenging. And I would even say that if you're doing anything where you have a proper brand that you're trying to promote, just you just can't do that at all. You have to vet people. Like, they have to be either like an approved person for whatever you're joining. Just anytime that you're doing anything with voice with other people. It's a
Yeah.
shame, because I'd love to be able just to trust the rando online, but well, that's why they're randos online and not my friends.
There's a reason I usually hide text chats anytime I do any kind of MMO. It's for that exact reason. You know, I've had plenty of times where I'm just bumming around in an MMO and I see people like forcing past the censors by throwing in like symbols or weird spacing or weird punctuation, and like it happens too often. But with that, let's
Mhm.
move on to a brighter new topic. You know, we talked about inspiration of your content, but what about your model? What about the looks that you show to everybody who pops in to twitch.tv/grizz_VT or goes to, you know, your YouTube? What made you decide, you know, I want the magic hat, I want the bunny ears, I want the bunny tail, I want the really nice like suit dress skirt thing? Like what made you want this look for yourself?
Well, l- starting back, I'll rewind a bit and mention again how when I first started getting into this, I hadn't realized I was a girl yet, and so I was mentally going through the hoops of creating my own model, creating a character as a whole. I had designs on some sort of like an old wizard. Like I was thinking like an 80s wizard type of thing with like lightning strikes and shit. I don't know,
I
but
like that image that just came
Mhm,
into my
mhm,
head.
mhm. But as time went on, first of all, it's expensive to just get a model, and I didn't have the free cash flow to just sort of be like, hey, I'll buy a model, see how it feels, buy another model, see how it feels, type of thing. Like
Hmm.
in terms of getting them properly commissioned. And and it seemed like every time like the idea came up, one of the like the toggles that I had in my head is like, oh, I want a fun redeem where like, oh, like uh-oh, like TG spell. Oh, now I'm a woman in it. It's like what? And you know, like I brush that aside. Like, oh no, that's a normal thing that everybody thinks and wants all the time.
It's completely
That's
normal to want to be the other gender
perfectly
every so
normal,
often.
perfectly standard. But
Bunny has that.
I believe it was the year 22. 22 in for Valentine's Day. There was a wave of models that looked very similar to what I've got right now that were hitting all the sort of major VTube spaces just because they were called like they were like the mommy model. It was like oh, come on in. Like everybody was doing it as like a little bit. And I had a friend. I had a friend of mine, Inaba_Tomo-chan, who had gotten a copy of the model and was having fun. And I messaged her like, hey, where's everybody getting this model? And she sent me a link to Booth, I believe was the website, with the actual creators at like and it was a link to Booth to a link to purchase that very model. And what it would cut and what it would have is a couple different color options, a couple different hair options, eye options for a little bit of things, and a number of pre-built in like mechanics. And
Okay.
it cost 2,000 yen.
So is that like $18?
Yeah, it was very, very reasonable for what I was getting out of it.
Oh,
And I thought, you
100%.
know what? Time for me to see if I want to let me get the model. Ha ha ha, it'll be so much fun. It'll be so funny. And then I had a very like awakening few months as I wrestled with putting together the model, picking out the right looks, picking out the colors I liked. And then, a year and a half later, that same creator released a bunny version of the model. Yeah. Because I actually do have another model by the same maker that is more of just an evening wear dress. And then this one was a later release of theirs.
Interesting, interesting. Well, hey, I mean, that model's really good. I know for a while you had swapped out of it, but then you were like, you know what?
I'm
No,
going to
I want
give
to
you
come back
the
to it.
proper contact for my model maker as well so that you can put it into the comments of the video if you like.
Yes, please do. I definitely, you know, I definitely want to, you know, push your model out to people, like the person who made your model, because we support our artists here. The people who did my model, genuinely love them, plan on going back to them when I have some more money. And I'm sure you're of a similar mind of like wanting to get, maybe you want to get something more personal with your model to make it just a little bit
Absolutely.
more diverse.
And that's been a big part of the following years, because for a large part of it, I looked at it as much as I like my model, I felt I felt like I wasn't, like, being unique. I felt like, I was really sure that, like, everybody would come into my stream would be like, "Oh, hey, you're using that same model everybody else is using." I don't see, like, barely anybody using this model anymore. I think everybody forgot, and I just sort of like, "Oh, maybe if I just tough it out by not doing anything,
I mean, to be
I get the
fair,
Luigi victory."
I know recently, like in the last year, another creator dropped this model that has like a high level of customization, and like I remember seeing everybody popping in like, get this model if you want to. Like, I think the model was, it was either 70 or 120.
Still
um
very
yeah,
reasonable.
look, my model was way more than
Exactly, yep.
um and you get, something customizable, fully rigged, and it's really good. However, it's one of those things, like I think every so often we get this thing where a creator's prefab model goes viral, so everybody hops on that train, and then the previous ones, the people who stuck to those, I feel like they get kind of like this benefit of now their model does not look like what a lot of people are using, since so many people swap to the newer stuff, that now they start to feel a lot more unique than when
And
they were using
I
the
I've
model
definitely
others
sort
were.
of fallen into that world at this point. I no longer feel like I'm sort of just copying an image like this. I do wish I had some more uniquenesses. My biggest ones is my fun little hat and my moon here, which shout out the so remember how I said I started up with a little PNG? That PNG was drawn by a good friend, Dari Palm, and it was of my kitty cat wearing this little hat here. And in doing so, we seem to have accidentally crafted what's like practically the most iconic thing I think on me.
I can definitely see that. I can I can definitely see that. Honestly, if you don't mind also sending me a picture of the
Yeah,
cat PNG so
absolutely.
that I can put it up so people can see
But in
the
that comparison, yeah.
yeah. Um but hey, thanks for sharing about that. And honestly, it's one of those things where I was kind of in a similar boat when I started designing my first model. Is my idea was just I just want it to be what I want to look like, and then just slowly
Oh
it
yeah, I did not realize I was designing like a female self when doing it.
yeah.
That same friend Daru Rupam, when I was trying to put together the model, she sent me a character like creation a checklist, and I had no idea that I was absolutely shattering my egg in the process of filling that out.
Yeah, which is, it's so funny because like I feel like I've definitely talked to a few trans folk who are like, yeah, no, like I just I ended up crafting this is goals. And like they might have like, I know me personally, I started with this is goals, and then I slowly was like, all right, let's build the world around it. Let's add some features. Let's turn it into a half fae, and now this is just my identity as opposed to like being my goals.
Absolutely. And it it's sort of like I don't want to make like everything about being trans, but it's hard for me to overstate how much of an impact that the course of streaming, meeting communities, and ultimately being able to portray myself in this way has had for me coming to that realization, like growing into myself a bit more, and it's life changing.
Oh yeah, I
It's
mean,
life changing.
it's one of those things where coming out, is not just other people learning about you. You do a lot of learning about yourself because you kind of become, especially like if you got yourself into this mindset, for like me, I had gotten myself into this mindset where I had to, I had to be a guy. I had to be tough. I couldn't like cute things. If I liked something that was feminine, it had to be gorgeous or beautiful. It couldn't be cute. It had to have this power and control behind it. And then I came out as trans and I went, but Bulbasaur is a little frog with plant bulb and is cute. So this
And
is
he
my
go
favorite
bulb.
now. Yeah, he go bulb. So this is, and it it's happened for a lot of people where they come out and they go, hey, I like these things and I'm more comfortable saying it. And I'm sure it was the same for you in a lot of different things, but some of it might have been you learning that you like those things and not just being willing to
Absolutely.
accept it.
And at a certain point, my journey to find like a uniqueness has sort of faded away into me just sort of playing as myself a bit more on stream, I guess. Like I had a brief period of time where I had a redesign. I had commissioned a new character design. I had all these plans in motion.
Mm-hmm.
And the longer I looked at it, I would just like I it didn't it wasn't me. And I think that was the big difference. Like that's what changed for me and why I ultimately ended up returning to my brown-eyed, brown hair, the classic got pushed into a pile of dirt look.
Hey, you know what? I that is one thing I can definitely say is if you can't be yourself on stream, you are going to struggle. Like you have to be able to
Absolutely.
sit there and be yourself to some degree.
And don't think this means that you can't be putting on masks, because streaming is all about wearing your mask, but you just can't suffocate yourself in your mask, if that makes sense.
Yep, and don't lose yourself in the mask. When you stop streaming, remember to take that mask off and breathe. I have definitely had days where I got into that streamer mode and I hit stop streaming and I was like, wow, life is great. And then an hour later I'm in bed like, why?
Oh, that's a mood for sure. And here's an interesting the chemical interactions of streaming is real. Like you can experience adrenaline highs and lows when you wrap it up. Remember, self-care is called that because you need to care for yourself. Wow, that was a stupid saying. That was stupid of me to say.
No,
Point
no, I
is,
think
like,
it's
don't fuck around with taking care of your after stream. When you wrap up stream, don't just like move on to the next thing. Like, take a breath, get a drink, go to the bathroom. It's work doing a stream. It's work being a presentation, presenting. It essentially we're doing a more private version of just busking. We're the person doing the living statue pose in Las Vegas. We're the people wearing the mascot costumes in New York City. And then Grandpa Twitch just takes a cut of everything what we're given.
well, I mean, it's also something you got to consider is like you said, it's like streaming is work. Like there's so much to do, and like it's very good to have friends who have information because there are going to be times where you feel like you have come to a wall, and how you get past that wall is a culmination of like your own personal knowledge, the knowledge of your, I'm going to say contacts, because you know what, maybe you consider them just, VTubing friends or streaming friends. Maybe you consider them actual friends. Maybe there are people, I've definitely met a few people through streaming that I consider just family at this point. And regardless of what you consider them, they could be a source of knowledge that helps you get through or past that wall that is in front of you. And it's just what you do sometimes.
It's
Speaking of
just
that,
one of those things. See, I I fucking hate networking, but it is the most useful thing to do.
Networking, making content out of just streaming, like, you know, short compilations or just posting shorts in general, you know, video content, stuff like that is really helpful in the long run. Not necessary because you can grow without doing those things, but arguably, I think, in my personal experience, doing those things has given me the growth that I've had, as opposed to some other people who do those things. And I know you've done times in the past where you posted shorts and such, and I know that quite a few
It
of your
takes
shorts
it
have
takes a
definitely.
lot of willpower to do that. I give
Ugh,
much more credit to you than myself on that front.
I legitimately just scheduled 8 shorts today to come out over the, well, from Tuesday to Friday over this and next week. So I'm finally getting that drive back to make content, which is another moment why we're sitting here and doing this interview that we've definitely lost track in multiple times.
Is that all I am to you? Content?
Oh, you're so much more than just content.
Do you have any other questions,
I
though?
I actually have quite a few, but you and I have rambled
Yeah,
on a
go
lot more than I
ahead.
expected. Um, so we're gonna focus on your content a little bit here. Looking at your time streaming games in the last year, Mass Effect seems to be your most streamed category again in the last year. You streamed it early this year, and it's actually overtaken your just chatting streams by, I think it was like by like 20 hours. Does Mass Effect hold a special place in your heart, or was it like a full collection of 1, 2, and 3, and that's why you
That
have like
that
130
second one,
hours?
that's it. So what I was saying about the long form games helping keep my head straight, keep me organized. And that's what we were doing. We did a full I did a full run through with my chat from 1 through 3. We like made choices, we made like certain decisions. I finally went and punched that reporter all 3 times. It was a very fun time. But
I remember you dreading
mhm,
having to
mhm.
do that.
Dreading, I was eager. But though I do tend to feel bad when I do bad things in video games, it's a flaw of mine. But eh, eh, overall, though, it was a fun series, but I wouldn't give it much more credence than that. It was it was simply a lot of play that was very fun to commentate, very fun to talk about the world and the galaxy at large, and then I got to the end, and I got an ending of Mass Effect 3, and I'm like, I think it's time to move on to greener pastures.
I beat the game. I think I'm free.
I got one of its many not terribly resolving endings, and I'm just like, yeah, I think we're done here.
All right. Well, I mean, if Mass Effect isn't it, I've definitely noticed you've done a lot of sci-fi style games in the last year as well. Cyberpunk 2077, Armored Core 6, you know, what was a couple of the other ones, Alien Isolation. Now, I know you had told me you kind of got burnt out on fantasy for a bit because you did so much fantasy stuff. And I know you've been getting back into the swing of like wanting to do fantasy stuff, but genuinely, are there any fantasy games you know of that either aren't out yet, like Elder Scrolls 6, or like you just don't have your hands on yet, that if you were given a copy of it tomorrow, you would start streaming it?
So I did play a lot of that game Claire Obscure Expedition 33, I believe,
Mhm.
that that ventured a bit into the realm of fantasy. Is there any, and I only bring that up because that I think is the most recent fantastical game I played, though it's definitely not a typical fantasy. I'll acknowledge that. I'm not sure. I mostly I've had a real hankering to play Final Fantasy Tactics again since they released that new version.
The Evilise
That
Chronicles, fair, fair.
because I played a tremendous amount of that when I was a child, and it has fond memories in my brain and my heart. And in other like single player type of fantasy stuff. Hmm. I'm afraid I really can't think of any that particularly call to me. There's always a huge number of them coming out, but so many of them I think they look like they tend to fall back on just the survival crafting element.
That's true.
And I the, more than fantasy, I feel like I'm burned out on that particular mechanic nowadays.
No, that is 100% fair, and I can't even blame you for that kind of thing. There's definitely, oh, what's it called? Tides of Annihilation, I think, is the game I had been looking at. Um, I saw it at like one of the big, I don't remember if it was State of Play or just like whatever the big E3 equivalent they did last year was. But like it's a fantasy game inspired by Arthurian legend. I feel like you might honestly get a kick out of it, and I'll send you a link for it.
It's not impossible. I've learned recently more about the Arthurian legend, and it's hard to believe how many different people have sort of have had their fingers in that soup pot of a tale.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things. Like any kind of story gets old enough, and you have people constantly dipping their finger in the pot, and it starts to become, you know, a little bit blurry on where that line it was. Is this the original thing, or is this just something we remember from, you
I
know, what have you?
Yeah. I enjoy how Lancelot is said not to have really entered the story until the story reached France, and then you think about like, well, hold on, Lancelot is the French knight at the Round Table who's best at everything and also has sex with Arthur's girlfriend. It's the most self-insert knight you've ever heard of in your life. It's
It
amazing.
really is. It definitely is, and it does make me chuckle a little bit.
You can find little things like that in just so many things in this world, and it's always interesting to sort of see where those touchstones come from.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm waiting for 20 years from now for like us to have experienced some kind of story, and within 20 years, it's already changed in some way, and we're sitting there like, that's not what it was. It's like, well, that's what it is now.
Oh, it's gonna be so frustrating
Actually,
when that happens.
I already know of one instance that we got something like that. So Final Fantasy III, the original release, the four characters were blank slates. You literally just name them and you control them.
Oh,
But
they
then,
got names.
well, in the Nintendo DS remake, and then they did a Steam version of the DS version, the characters had names and personalities. And for me personally, that actually pulled me out of the game as opposed to drawing me more in. But I definitely, I'm excited to see if any other games get that kind of treatment. We're definitely seeing like Final Fantasy VII Remake has had a similar thing, but at least Final Fantasy VII Original did have characterization, just some characters less than others.
That's true.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see what else gets that kind of treatment.
I was trying to think of another example, but I couldn't. I got nothing.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Well, because it's one of those things where like not a lot of companies are going back and remaking their content, and if they are, they're more just doing like, oh well, we'll tweak things a little bit and throw out a remaster. Like, you know, the recent Plants vs Zombie games, I was told was like ported from
Oh,
the less superior version. I don't remember the specifics, but I remember being told like it runs really poorly
it's
because it's the
it's
less efficient version or whatever.
Plants vs. Zombies hasn't been anything more than a cash grab ever since ever since the first one reached success. The first one came out because it was a good game that people liked. Every single one afterwards has been for the sake of money, money. Not that the first one wasn't meant to make money, but the others are primarily meant to make money.
Yeah. And if I recall, isn't Plants vs. Zombies by the same company who does like Peggle and like Zuma and such?
Yeah, like that, I believe it was PopCap, and PopCap has a real strategy of just picking up everything in reach and flinging it at the walls, and whether it sticks or not, it's just going to keep flinging.
Yeah, well, hey, you know what? They've had a couple of hits. I know I personally have played a ton of Peggle. I know a lot of people have played a ton of Plants vs. Zombies, and there's one VTuber who I love watching that constantly is playing PopCap games while also yelling about the PopCap games. This VTuber will remain.
They deserve to be yelled at.
Yeah, but you know what? Speaking of other VTubers, though, you and I actually met in a group of VTubers. We had a mutual friend who was just looking for people to do a PowerPoint collab that we all went in and just did PowerPoints on what have you, whatever we wanted.
It was
I know
such a good time.
it was so fun. I know I did a rage bait one where I just tried to tell people to stop shoehorning things into 5th edition, that there are these perfectly good tabletop games that do all of what they want. I will fully admit I had to, you know, poke at your brain to see if you could remember. You had done like a philosophical PowerPoint based on decisions in video games.
It was fun
really
because
cool.
none of us talked at all about what type of like shows we do.
Well, it was literally like we were just told, just whatever you want, any topic is just go for it. You know, we had Reedy Bread who did the history of Rome.
Yeah, so let me try and see if I can explain what mine was just in a way that's digestible right now.
That kind of tells me the answer to this question then, but go ahead.
So I started with a clip from one of those Twilight Zone shows from the game Alan Wake, and it was about a scientist who invented a device that means he'll never die. It was some sort of cube. He plugged it in, and he said, "Haha, see, now I'll never die." And like he said, like he pulled a gun to his head, like pulled the trigger, it clicked, it was blank, it had a misfire, and he was like, with this device on, like I'll always be on the timeline that has the most, like does the best for me. And then big twist, like he did something, but it got unplugged and he died. Which, by the way, if that device worked, it never would have gotten unplugged. But that's besides the point. But I that concept came back around too, and I wish I could remember the actual philosopher's name off the top of my head, but it was an idea that I had learned about a long time ago on that in each of our own individual perspectives, we're on that track. We're on the most possible successful version of ourselves track. No matter how many terrible things that have happened to you, by virtue of you existing right now, this is the best version of your reality. And I brought up how video games emulate that. Every time you have a game where you're playing a character and then something goes wrong, you die, you just get hurt and say, "Oh, well, I want to have these healing items for the boss." That reality gone, and a new reality is kicked into gear. And if you were to look at the perspective of the character, if you've done it like in the way sort of I'm describing, that character's only experienced one reality, and it's the most successful reality ever. Every every like Elden Ring character has never, like, oh well, no, actually I suppose in the canon of that game you die a lot and come back, but there are variants. There are variants to what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Elder Scrolls does it. If you die in Elder Scrolls, you reload. You don't just get to come back. And so every Elder Scrolls character has never died.
Interesting. That does make sense to me, though. Well, so that does kind of answer my question a bit. Because the question was ultimately, would you do the same topic if it was like, let's say it was a group of mostly new people or completely new people, or would you do a different topic?
I'd want to do a different topic, if only because I've got more wacky things to express in the form of PowerPoints.
Good to know. I may have to plan one of these again just because I really liked it and I want to do another one. I don't have an idea of all of what I would start doing.
Well, DM me then. Keep
I
me in contact.
I will. I'll keep you in the loop. Although normally I post my stuff in the House Sable pub. You know, where I spend most of my time.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of, us collabing again, you and I have played Magic before on stream, and I know you are big into Commander, but you just kind of mostly play whatever decks you find online. Is there a Commander or a color combination that you genuinely want to build your own deck for?
It's difficult to say because of the reasoning behind those things is different than the reason that I wouldn't build a deck. So to answer your question, no, but only because cardboard is expensive and I don't have I got better things to be spending that money on now.
Yeah, but if you
And
play mostly online, you aren't
that's
paying
true.
for the
Which
cardboard.
which brings me around to the alternate rationale then. When I'm playing on those things, when I'm like doing that, usually it's because I've only like just now remembered, oh, hey, I'm going to go play Magic right now. I'll zip over to one of the like EDH rec or something, and I'll just find a deck that looks interesting, something new and exciting to play, either a commander I've never seen or something that specializes in mechanics I haven't done, and I want to give that a try. My go-to are white and red. I just love aggro decks. I love Voltron decks, but I really like to switch it around. It's interesting to explore those different sort of avenues and different mindsets. Really the only color that I don't fuck around with too much is blue, just because the more complicated a deck is meant to be, the less likely I am to have fun with it. If I have to maintain like 6 different triggers every activation, I'm just like, fuck this, fuck this.
Look, you have seen me do exactly that without a drop of blue in the deck. I'm
It's
just
true.
saying,
Which,
blue is a
which
mindset,
I
not just a
suppose,
color.
which I suppose speaks to that mindset. It's more that like, as even if I did play a blue deck, it'd probably be more about like making fairy tokens and flying than it would be about counters and triggers.
Yeah, like there's a lot of blue is known for being the tricksy color, but I literally have a not an EDH deck. This is more of a casual deck, but I literally have what I refer to as the 5-color mono blue stompy deck because it's an illusion deck, and the only non-blue card in it is Chromat, who's a 5-color illusion.
Effed up.
It's hilarious. But moving on to other tabletops that maybe you have stronger
Uh-huh.
opinions on, and I'm very confident you do. We're in a Lancer campaign together, and from talking to you, it's so clear that Lancer is, if not your favorite, one of your favorite tabletop games. You talk about it a lot. You read, you've read quite a few of the books. You are constantly building characters for it and giving these characters lore. What would you recommend to someone who's looking to start getting into Lancer other than the obvious read the book?
But that is the answer because the book is where the lore is. And so my brain when I'm doing fun new things with fun new role-playing games is that I need a bit of a framework. I've never been able to get into the really open-ended RPG systems that are things like GURPS, or the things that, like, you
Savage
can play any
Worlds
character at all. I need some
structure.
framework. And Lancer does a very good job of providing that framework while still providing a tremendous amount of freedom in what you actually like want to be as a character. It's a bit more limiting in terms of like build, because of course you want to make numbers go up, but in terms of who you are within the setting, the ingrained lore settings, it allows you a lot of versatility as long as you're willing to pilot a giant mech. I think that's probably the one qualifier of being in a Lancer game. Your character needs to both want to and not even enjoy. You just need to be willing to do the piloting. Shinji, get in the robot.
So step 1, read the book. Step 2, do not watch Evangelion and think that Shinji is who you should play.
But you can. That's the crazy part.
You can, but you shouldn't.
Get in the mom mech, Shinji.
To be fair though, like that kind of plays on a bit of a pet peeve of mine, and that is that there are people who sit down to do, you know, these tabletop games, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna build a reluctant hero, and they forget that there's 2 words in that archetype, and it's like, here's a quest for you, and they go, okay, but why do I want to do that? Well, it's the quest that sets you on your journey. I'm gonna go home. I'm good. It's like, why are you at the table?
Haven't you heard of refusing the hero's call? That's why when they go home, they find their mother's been kidnapped by the big enemy. And if they still say they don't want to, they go up to their room, they find their PlayStation 4's also been kidnapped by the enemy.
It's one of those things, like, definitely there are ways for a GM to handle it, but I've been in those campaigns.
It should be on the GM's onus.
Yeah, it shouldn't just be on the GM. And I've been at a campaign where the GM had to take the player aside and go, all right, we are reworking your character's personality because this will not work, because your character does not want to be here and literally has no reason to be here. And they sat down, they worked it out, they came to enough of an agreement that the character would be forced into the campaign, and we carried on.
It's sort of a thing. It's only sort of, I want to say, tangentially related at this point, but it is making me think of a new sort of strategy I've come to with role playing that I really enjoy. Is that when like if somebody were to describe to me, say, like a character motivation, even if it's corny or only half baked, I have my characters lean into it now. My characters no longer say like, well, why are you doing that, or something like that. It's like, well, yeah, heck yeah. If we ever find that person who abused you, I'll help you beat the shit out of them. Sure thing. And it's just like, yeah, just
Ride or die.
Play the game with people. That's what it all comes down to. Play the game. Play a fun game with your friends. Oh, and another thing in terms of getting into it, join the Lancer Discord, and also I think the Reddit is all right. I'm not on the Reddit, but I hear okay things. But yeah, the Lancer Discord, A+.
Good to know. Good to know. There you guys go. If you want anything to do with Lancer, Grizz is also a great place to go for it. She is literally. Am I allowed to tell people that you are about what you've been working on?
You can, sure.
Grizz has actually been sitting down and learning how to like run the game and planning out a campaign. Like, this is going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be really cool. Whether it's streamed or not, it's going to be great.
One of your primary enemies definitely isn't going to be Metalbeard from the Lego movie.
Oh, I cannot wait, even though I've never seen the Lego movie to this day. Something I've been yelled at routinely by my brother for.
You're going to keep getting yelled at it.
100%. I know you're going to yell at me too. But before you do, let's move on to the final and kind of the biggest question I have. And this is a question that I know is going to have some people really give like this deep answer, and some people are gonna, you know, not really have anything to say. But this
Fine,
is
white. White underwear is my favorite.
not what I was asking.
Oh,
Um, Grizz, honestly, is there any kind of project that you want to start working on, but you either just aren't sure what you could, like, what you need to start it, or how to start it, or you just don't have the resources for that project? Obviously, only if you're willing to talk about it. If it's something you want to keep secret, don't explain it here. You are not protected from violating NDAs on this call. This will be on YouTube.
let me think. Because much like many people, my mind's always a swirl of ideas that seem like they'd be fun. And I think the one that's had the most cohesion lately has been that Lancer campaign we just talked about.
Mm.
But let me dial it down a little bit. Let me focus on streaming and my VTubing and see if I've got an answer that pertains explicitly to that.
Yeah, like ideally, this is something where, like, hey, someone down in the
I
comments might be able to point you in a direction if you aren't sure.
I don't think this is necessarily something I would get assistance on, but I think like I've had the idea of doing a big like rebrand for a long time, and that got started and then sort of stopped when I had that brief rebranding that I told you about, that like pretty much exactly that. But even though that new look didn't initially work out, I'd still like to I'd like to seem like I'm on proper footing. Like much like you've got a website, you've got all of your merch, and you've got all these plans and motions. And when I hear about them, I'm excited for you. And I think I wonder what I could accomplish in that vein. And I think that's going to take willpower and planning on my part more than anything else.
Okay. I mean, it's one of those things. Like you mentioned the stuff I do. You've seen how little sleep I get. How often I'm
You
sitting here.
don't make it look glamorous, I'll be honest.
As you are, being my roommate, you are literally one of three people who have experienced what it is like living with content creator Alyss. And you like this spot I'm in, where you referred to it as my battle station. I am at this spot for probably 15 hours a day, maybe more.
Yep. And I respect it, but I don't envy it. And that's a big reason why I often worry if I'd be able to really make it if I tried to just nose dive purely into VTubing.
Yeah, but I
I
mean,
just I don't like editing videos. It's hard.
it it depends on what you're trying to do with the edits. I won't say that editing is easy. It is definitely a learned skill, and there are people leagues better at it than I will ever be. But I was also going to say, don't forget that about 8 hours of that day is, working my non-streaming job that I just so happen to spend half my time ignoring and doing content creation stuff anyway. Um, so your big thing that you kind of want to do is you want to do a rebrand, but you're just not sure. You're not
I
sure where the
I'd
end
I'd
goal
love to
is.
get I'd love to design and commission myself a proper like background for my opening. Like all of my screens right now are stuff that I've made myself that while I'm proud of, are far from anything even close to a professional level.
Okay, well, hey, I mean, you know what? Just, things you could always do is step one. Doing some planning on. Do you have an idea of what you want those screens to look like? I know your just chatting screen, you've just kind of been in, I believe that's a restaurant that you're sitting in, or like a cafe.
Yeah, but I literally have that exclusively so that I could have just an interesting looking sitting position. Like I don't have anything brand related to being in a cafe. I just thought it'd be fun to like, okay, let's do a restaurant. Let's have a little table, have some breadsticks.
Oh yeah, I wasn't saying like that was your brand thing. I was just like,
No, but
it's,
it comes up because ultimately your home screen is supposed to be at least a little bit about your brand.
yeah. I have the
And
House Sable
that's what I need to
pub.
work on. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what, you'll definitely get there. I'm very happy that you were able to share everything with us. This definitely, we spent a lot longer talking than I expected, but I actually genuinely, I enjoy it because you are a good friend and we had a lot of fun banter. Is there anything you want to tell the people before we end the video?
Hmm. Hmm.
While she doesn't think on that, everyone make sure you go follow Grizz. You can find her at twitch.tv/Grizz_VT. You can also find her, your YouTube is just still Grizz_VT, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, I don't know the last time you've posted there, but that is also somewhere you can follow Grizz. Grizz is also on Blue Sky, but I will also put an invite link to Grizz's Discord down in the description below, as well as links for Grizz, her model artist, and what have you. Have you come up with a closer for the people, Grizz?
Yes. Go force fem your friends.
Says the woman who not even an hour ago says, I don't mean to make everything about being trans.
Well, I gotta make many things. Goodbye,
Uh,
everyone. Thank you for
Goodbye, Grizz. Thank you
watching.
so much for popping in for this. I'm gonna start saying goodbye to everyone. If you're watching
And
this,
now I return to hell. Goodbye, everyone.
if you are watching this to the end, thank you so much. Let me know if you enjoyed the video. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Down in the comments below, let me know, if you follow Grizz, what your favorite things Grizz does is. If there's cool like content creators you want me to interview, let me know down in the comments. I can't promise anything, but I can always try. If it's people I'm already friends with, I can make a lot easier happen. Reminder that till the end of the month, there is Nostalgia-Vember merch on sale. Well, not Nostalgia-Vember merch, but all merch is on sale, 5% off with code Nostalgia-Vember25. But with that in mind, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.